is, and I represent the Negotiators LLC. Is this in and out?
Yeah, it's off and on.
It's in and out.
Very good.
Okay. Well, if I have to put it down, can everybody still hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Somewhat.
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
It's going to be in and out, then I may have to put it down. Okay. So, my name is Anthony Bolden, and I want to again thank you for being here. I have joined a group of financial professionals, a growing group around the nation, that is deeply concerned about the direction that we're headed and the impact that it's having in your everyday life. People everywhere are really confused about the economy. They are bombarded by the media, bullied by salespeople, and bewildered by all the things that you think you have to know in order to get ahead. And so we just wonder, who to trust and what do we do? So tonight we're going to talk about some of those things that's making your life difficult. How many of you have experienced when you go to the store, you work hard, you make money, but it seems the things you're buying and you need is requiring more of your money? How many of you, can I show of hands, how many of you are experiencing that? How many are actually not okay with that? There's a reason for that. And so we're going to talk about that. And so one of the fears that people have is, well, when is the next recession? Well, one thing I found out is that the media has accurately predicted 18 of the last 2 recessions. Some of y'all get that in. But a recession pretty much is when your neighbor loses their job. A depression is when you lose yours. So, what we're going to talk about, okay? Well, we're going to talk about some of those things that we just don't get a chance to look at or even think about. We're going to explore those things on tonight. So why are we having such a difficult problem? Let me just share the screen with you here. Okay. So, why are we having such a difficult time? Because we're part of a very wicked game. And this might help you understand. And by the way, let me just say this. If you have more questions at the end of this talk than you had when you came in, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Because now what that really simply means is you're now starting to think in areas where previously you might have been told only what to think. So we're going to examine some of those things. So it's a part of a wicked game that we've all been a part of. And what is that wicked game? It's really about discovery, about how your financial life is being systematically confiscated, well, that evidence of a crime. We're being nickel and dimed, and our wealth is being stolen, but I don't seem to really know what's happening. So how is that happening? Well, the people who's actually making your life difficult, the very perpetrators who's doing this, are the people who control the rules of the game. And then they put you at risk, and then go about advising you how you should live your life. So that wicked game, how does it work? Let's begin, shall we? Here's how it works. I go to work. I get paid a monetary unit, what you know is dollars. But here's the thing. The longer I hold these dollars, the less value it has over time, because they call inflation. But if that's not enough, the longer I hold these monetary units, the dollars, the less buying power that it has. The longer, does that make sense? Then, as I get paid, the government taxes me on those dollars that I'm working for. Depending on how many I get, how much they tax me. So not only did I lose 10, 20, 30% of my monetary units to government taxes, the dollars, they continue to lose buying power the longer I keep them. If that's not enough, the cost of goods and services that I need continue to increase. At the same time that I'm losing 10, 20, 30% of my dollars to taxes. And then, after I pay taxes, the dollars I have left still continue to lose buying power. Does that make sense? Can you relate to that?
Yeah.
But that's not enough. The cost of the goods and services that I buy are also taxed by the government for the things that I purchase. Then the government also taxes the entities and the companies and the corporations that provides the goods and services that I need. Now let me stop right there. So what people say is, well, you rich corporations, you rich people, you need to pay your fair share. Well, here's what happens when they do that. The government says, yeah, you rich corporations, we're going to tax you more. So what are they going to do? Raise their prices. They say, go ahead, go tax me. Raise that price, raise that price, raise that price, raise that price. And who ended up paying for that? Yeah. So the government said, we're going to tax you more, so they increased the prices of the goods and services that offset their costs to taxes. So I end up paying for the companies and corporate taxes through increased pricing. This is a part of that wicked game. But I also pay sales tax that includes their tax when I purchase the goods. And this also has a direct impact on the actual amount of goods and services that I can actually buy, minus the cost of taxes. Well, it seems like then on top of that, everything I'm purchasing is either consumed or depreciated in value. And then it starts all over again. All over again. So let's recap. I go to work at $30, and then it gets taxed on the dollars I get. The longer I keep those dollars, the more lose value. The goods and services I purchase also are taxed. The cost of goods and services I receive continue to go up, and the buying power goes down, and the goods and services I purchase depreciate in the value over time. Now, who invented this game? The people who invented this game are the very ones who could create the situation, control the outcome, and profit from it. Now, here's what's kind of interesting. There are people who say, yes, I helped create this problem, but if you vote for me, I will fix the problem that I created. How's that working out? So they create the problem, and then they create solutions to fix the problem that they created. That's a part of that wicked game. So before you do anything financial, it's very important to understand how money works in your life. And so if you thought something to be true, it turned out not to be true, wouldn't you want to know about it? So there might be opportunities that you may not even see. And we're going to talk about some of that. Because knowledge is what you learn, and wisdom is your ability to apply that knowledge to your everyday life. All right. So I'm going to go to the next step here. There are now, I'm part of the Wealth and Wisdom Institute, that group of financial professionals who are rethinking all the stuff we've been taught to tell you. I gotta say, I started in the financial services industry many years ago because, like others, I wanted to help people with money. But somehow I discovered that the financial services industry was profiting handsomely at the expense of the people they're supposed to be helping. So I got to thinking, now wait a minute. Are you guys just making big pimps for products? And people are still struggling even when they're buying things? So I have to take a step back and say, maybe we need to rethink what we're doing so it can be a better, because wealth requires wisdom. If the wisdom is without the wealth, if the wealth is without the wisdom, the wealth gets lost. So you need both, wealth and wisdom. So there are five core elements in your financial life. So the question is, what do you see? See, we all have blind spots, but more importantly, what don't you see? Because in life, most accidents and unintended consequences are usually a result of what we don't see, not what we do see. Because we all have blind spots, and sometimes it takes someone else to point them out. So you have to discover the things you don't see. And there are challenges in your financial decision-making process. And those challenges are things that you don't see. So we're going to talk about what are some of those things. risks. The risk that you feel like you have to take in order to get ahead. You know, we've been taught, well, you got to take a risk. You know, a guy told me once, he says, well, Anthony, it takes money to make money. How many of you ever heard that? Take money? Yeah. But what I didn't know, what he was telling me, it takes my money for him to make money. That's what he's really telling me. You got to take a risk in order to get ahead. And then there's taxes. You know, there's all kinds of taxes. There's property taxes, sales taxes, income tax, and there's a whole list of taxes. There's even hidden tax. We'll talk about that. And the regulations, that's another thing that comes into play. All these things are affecting what you decide to do financially. Regulations, that comes from government. Did you know that they're constantly introducing new laws? And when they introduce a law, it's called a bill. There's a reason why it's called a bill. And when it gets passed, guess who has to pay that bill? And they're constantly making regulations that will affect you financially. If that's not enough, there's inflation. You know, a lot of people don't know that the Federal Reserve is not a reserve, it's not federal, and it's not a reserve. It's actually private. And so it's actually them who's controlling inflation by printing money. Now think about this, consider this. If Rolls-Royces was produced at the rate of Toyota Camrys, what would happen to the price of those? It would decrease because there's more of them. Okay? So they don't make as many Rolls-Royces, that's why the value is high, and the way they make them. So that's economics 101. So inflation, is that same true? So when there's a big supply, price go down. Well, guess what? That's also true for dollars. The more they print, the less value each one has. That's why you have inflation. And then, of course, there's appreciation of the dollar. So we're going to talk about these things, the risk. Traditional financial thinking is centered around different levels of risk. Now, listen at the words they use. Risk profile, risk management, risk tolerance. You know, when I think of risk tolerance, now I define risk tolerance as how much money can you lose before you're angry? That's what risk tolerance really means. So you have to take a risk in order to get ahead. Now, here's another one. You're told, now how many of you were told this? Time times rate of return times the monetary unit equals accumulation. That sounds pretty fair, doesn't it? Here's the problem. Rate of return, that's manipulated. And rate of return is usually looking at history. Well, if rate of return is looking back at history, that's like going to work every day, never taking your eyes off the rearview mirror. Do you think that's the best way to plan your future? Chasing rates of return? And then does the dollar's value stay constant? No, it doesn't. So the only thing that's consistent in that formula is time. Time that you can't get back. How much time do you have taking these risks before you run out of time? So that's the problem with the formula. It's flawed from the beginning. And so then we're taught to chase rates of return. Well, rate of return is kind of tricky because see, there's gross rate of return, there's net rate of return, there's actual rate of return, and there's average rate of return. So when someone talks about rate of return, which one are you talking about? Because they're not the same. Here's a good example. For those who understand math, let's try this. $1,000 averaging 20% a year, rate of return for 2 years. Now at the end of 2 years, you have A, 1440, B, 1280, C, 800, or D, 0. Anybody volunteer? Which one? Okay, which is correct at the end of 2 years? Okay, let me help you out. Let's work that out. So the $1,000 being 20%, that's $200, right? Okay, so you have $1,200. So the second year being 20%, so you have $1,280. It's pretty simple. $240. So you got $1,440. Does that make sense? Everybody can see that? Okay, now I'm gonna mess with you. B is also correct. Huh? How was that? Okay, let me explain. So that first year, the $1,000 made 60%. Woo! Yeah! Let's start with it, okay? But then the second year, you lost 20%. Now, 60 minus 20 is how much? Divided by 2 is what? You still average 20%. But look what you ended up with, 1280. So then if B is correct, then maybe C is correct. Well, C is correct. Because guess what happened? That $1,000 first year made 100%. Oh, yeah. But the second year, you lost 60%. Now 100 minus 60 is what? Divided by 2 is what? You still average 20%. But look what you ended up with. So then if C is correct, maybe D is correct also. Well, it is. How is that so? Well, see, that first year, that $1,000 made 140%. Woo! Yeah. But the second year, you lost 100%. Now, when you lose 100% of anything, what do you have? But you still made 20%. Because, see, 140 minus 100 equals what? Divided by 2 is what? See the problem with focusing on average rate of return? So someone will tell you, you didn't buy this investment this because it averages this. That's the problem with focusing on averages. When it comes to your financial life, there's two things it's a good idea to use. Math and common sense. The reason why I like math, because math doesn't offer an opinion. Okay? And so if math and common sense are not coming together, then you have to ask yourself, who's really benefiting? Okay? So that should be a part of your financial life. So I like to deal myself in certainty whenever at all possible. Because, I mean, what do you call a plan that offers no certainty? And so I ask people, you know, what you're planning, are you getting a maybe or a certainty? Which one do you want? Is that what you're getting? Because I'll be talking about certainty. Was that what you're getting or what you're doing? And so the more certainty that you put in your financial life, the more you have a permission to take risks. Okay? So why not think about certainty first? Now, let's talk about taxes. I got this from the Congressional Budget Office. This is already their projection on what they're planning on taking for you and me. This is already their plan. Now take a look at 2022. Now, the top line, which direction do you see the taxes going, up or down? Yeah. And then they were projecting that 2022, they would have 23 trillion in government debt. Now remember the bills that they passed? Who has to pay those bills? And where do they get their money? Taxes and borrowing money from the Fed. So 23 trillion. So, you know, they talk billions, they throw around the word billions and trillions like it's nothing. Well, let's put that in perspective. This comes from their own office, their plans on collecting more money from you. Let's take a look. Let's put that in perspective. What a trillion looks like. And that's what it was back then. Current number is more like the true. So the question is, where are they gonna get the money? They can only tax you so much. Because if they take away all of your, and people say, well, tax the rich. Well, you know, if they were to take every bit of all of your money and all the rich people, they wouldn't cover the deficit. So, who's paying their fair share? Something to think about. So traditional thinking, so we have a problem. We're trying to get ahead, but we're facing all of these things. Well, what does traditional thinking suggest? You know, all you really need is a qualified plan, and that'll take care of it. Now, a qualified plan, that's like a 401k, 403b, IRA, SEP IRA, those kind of things. You're familiar with those things? They're called qualified plans. Why are they called qualified plans? Because you're qualified to be taxed. Now, when I talk about risk, okay, who's taking the risk? Who's at risk? You are the person making the recommendation. In investments, you know, investments, they say, let's take a risk. You got to take a risk in order to make money. Well, when that risk gets realized, you lose money. Okay, so then you have to make money to get back to zero before you start making money again. Think about this. You know, that's the nature of investments. There are difference between investing and saving. Savings is the dollars you can't afford to lose, and investing is the dollars you can afford to lose. Then, so solutions make products, like CDs, certificates of depreciation, disappointment, mortgage. By the way, mortgage, we borrowed that term from the French, which means death pledge. And it comes from the ancient French times where the poor French peasants were working until they were nearly dead for the privilege of owning a house. And you know what's interesting? You notice when people buy a house, now I'm not saying don't do these things, qualified investment bank products. I'm just suggesting that when we do things, we need to understand the whole picture, not just part of it. You know, when a person buys a house, typically what they do after 5 years, what do you think they do? Refi. You get lower interest rate. Now see, we're taught to think interest rate. Lenders are taught to think interest volume. Let me give you an example. So when you buy a house, 5 years later, refi, that means 81% of the payments went to interest. Now, you don't have to take my word for it, just do the math, okay? So 80% went to interest. Then you refi, you're back at a 90% interest bracket. So we think, well, I got a good interest rate. Well, the bank got a good interest volume. That's the difference. And typically, most lenders, their reputation, not all of them, but many of them, they will give you an umbrella when it's not raining and take it back when it is raining. Lenders will do that. So those are typical, so we have to take some kind of risk. Some risks are necessary, but when it comes to financial, not every risk is necessary. It's just a matter of understanding what we're doing and why we're doing it. So the problem, these are the solutions. Well, some of the solutions have problems. So does the bank products, qualified plans, with all these, do they solve the problem of risk, taxes, regulation, inflation, depreciation, or did I just describe what you have? So which of these elements do you want in your financial plan, your future? Do you want risk, taxes, regulations, inflation? Probably not. But these are the things that's affecting what you do. Now, when I talk about economy, the big economy is called the macro economy. And the micro economy is what you do. See, what they do in the big economy will affect you, but what you do will impact you. And that's the key. Because you know, historically, we've had good times, but there are people who manage to do poorly. We've had bad times, but yet people have managed to do well. It comes down to your personal choices. That makes all the difference. So which of these do you control? Probably pretty much. There's only one of them that's probably you can have some control, and that's risk. So 4 of these elements are just really an opportunity to lose money. Here's an analogy to consider. So you're meeting with financial people and they're inviting you to put your wealth into what I call a financial bathtub. Do you remember those bathtubs with the 4 legs? You know, those big iron tubs? Where you picture your wealth in a bathtub. Now the problem is, those bathtubs have holes in the bottom. And those holes will get bigger over time. What are those holes? Risk, taxes, regulation, inflation. And so then you have to turn the faucet up to fill the tub to overcome all those holes. So then you're taught to chase rates of return. Turn up the faucet. Now, common sense, okay, we'll go back to math and common sense. So common sense would suggest, would it be better to just plug the holes or turn up the faucet? You know, if you plug the holes, you can turn that faucet down to a trickle and still fill the tub. What a concept. But that's not what we're taught to do. So see, many times the traditional thinking collapses with the things that you don't see, don't want, control. So that's part of that wicked game. So we end up monitoring the situation and not really solving the problem. So I think it's time that we redefine the planning process when we consider all these things. So the good news is we cannot go back in the future, in the past, and create a new beginning, but you can start today to create a new ending. And that's what I'm submitting to you today. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. There's another one. So how many people want to invest? Do I see right that want to invest? Okay. So I need a volunteer. It's important to know what you want. Now I want to say this, that all of you, what you have in common right now is that all of you had planned on being here at this time. You decided you was going to do that. And some of you, not having been here before, you use the GPS. How do you use the GPS? Think about this. GPS wants to know 2 things. Where you want to go, okay, and where you're starting from. Now, why do you want to know that? Because from the sky, they can tell, they know what's going on between where you are and where you want to go. So that determines the direction they give you. Now, if you're like me, you might get distracted by a stupid driver, the cell phone, the radio, or something like that, and you make a wrong turn. But the GPS says, hey, no problem. I can get you back on the track because I know where you're trying to go. So what am I saying? I like to take the same approach financially. Everybody wants to go somewhere financially. So here's the point. You have to know what you want. That's where it starts. You need to know what you want. Then the next thing is, where are you? A lot of people, they think they know where they are, but they don't. Okay? So you have to know where you are and then what you're doing. Okay? Because those things that's going on financially are the risk, taxes, government regulation. That's stuff that's going on between where you are and where you want to go. And if you're not mitigating these things, then you're only feeding the problem. So I think it's a good idea. And where you want to go, where you are, what you're doing, they have to be in complete alignment. And if they're not, then you're living in a fantasy that's going to become a nightmare at the worst possible time. So I need a volunteer for investment. You might volunteer? Okay, back. All right. So I'm going to ask you a question. Larry, right? James. Okay, James. So let's create the perfect investment, shall we? All right. Again, what do you see? What do you want? So I'm going to ask you some questions, Larry. You can just answer me yes or no. Is that okay? All right. All right. So, in your investment, would you want risk? Yes or no?
But I want risk.
Yeah.
I want risk in my investment, no.
Okay. Said no. All right. Would you want guarantees in your investment? You want that? Okay. How about this? Would you want penalties associated with getting your money? No. Okay. Would you want liquidity? Being able to have access to it, use it, and control it at the same time. Would you want that? Okay. Would you want to protect it from creditors and predators?
Yes.
Okay. How about this one? Would you want leverage? This is one of my favorite words. leverage is creating the most amount of wealth in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of cost. Would you want that?
Yes.
Okay. Would you want your money tax deferred? Now you might have second thoughts, but it's okay. Would you want tax deferral if you could have it?
Yes.
Especially if your distributions are tax free. Would you want your distributions tax free?
Yes.
Okay. How about this? Would you want to keep your money but only use it as collateral for the things that you want to do in your life today? Would you want to do that if you could?
Yes.
It's a pretty good investment, huh? All right. How about this one? Would you want your contributions or your deposits to be tax deductible if you could?
Yes.
All right. How about this one? If you became disabled, or as they say in Detroit, shot, would you want somebody to continue to fund it for you?
Yes.
Okay. How about this? Would you want to be able to transfer this investment to your heirs completely tax-free?
Yes.
Okay. Now here's the interesting thing. The green is what you said you wanted. But what does the industry put you in? So how is it that you say you want these things, but you're put in another direction? Now I'm not saying all these things are bad. They all have a place. But it's important for you to understand what you want. So some people say, well, Anthony, I don't know what I want. Well, why not start with knowing what you don't want to happen? That might give you a clue on what you do want. Okay? So my question to you, James, is this. If I can get you those things that you said you want, is that a conversation you'd like to have?
Yes.
Okay, so that's it. So my point is, it's important for you to know what you want. And then everything you do should be geared towards that. So that you get certainties and not maybes. All right. Now what do you see and what do you want? So that's the key. Any questions? Are you still with me? All right. So what can you do? There's one other thing, and I'm just about done. Okay. Now, one of the things we have to learn is, it's how to control our money. Now, if you notice, a financial institution would rather you borrow rather than save. What's my proof? What are they giving you on your savings? But what are they charging on your borrowing? See, we're taught to be either one or the other, the borrower or the lender. But nobody told you you could be both. Oh, and I rather hold that because the one who owns the debt is the one that gets rich. See, when it comes to lending, is lending a friend, a bigger friend to the borrower or to the lender? Pardon? Lender, yeah. So that's why lenders like lending. Okay? So what if we chose to do the same? Save only for the purpose of being the lender. What a concept. Let's share how that works. Okay, money velocity, that's using the same money over and over again. I'm going to give you an example. Walmart, can of peas. You might charge, it might cost them 45 cents to put that can of peas on the shelf. So they might sell it for 50 cents just to get it off the shelf. So you pay James 50 cents. They take 45 cents, put another can there, so I can buy it. I buy it 50 cents. They pull off a nickel, put another can there, so you can buy it. Okay? Now, if they can do this 9 times in one day, that nickel turned into how much money? You right? 45 cents. That's 100% return on a can of peas in one day. That's money velocity, using the same dollar over and over again. We can do that. Now, here's the point. The average household is wasting over $300 a month. That's not hard to do because we're not tracking those dollars. See, if you watch those pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. So I'm going to use a vehicle to show money velocity, probably a vehicle that you might not be used to, okay? It's not bank CDs, investments, or whatever. Instead, I'm going to use this vehicle. That's not really thought of pretty much as a financial vehicle, but I'm going to make my case using this. So that $300, that's $3,600 a year. So I'm going to save that $3,600 in my plastic bucket, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna take that $3,600, I'm gonna buy me some furniture, but I'm gonna borrow it. But who am I gonna borrow it from? Okay, so I'm gonna borrow from myself, and I'm gonna pay myself back at 8%. See, I don't mind having debt as long as it's me that I owe. Okay, so I'm gonna make those payments, $88 a month, I can afford that, over 48 months, I'm gonna pay myself back. See, a lot of times we save up money and spend it, but never pay it back. No wonder we're constantly chasing more money. Okay, so I put it back, so a year later, I put back $1,056. So what am I gonna do? That next year, I'm gonna borrow $1,000 and I'm gonna upgrade my wardrobe or my laptop for $1,000. So I'm gonna finance it for 36 months at 8%. Now the first loan is not paid off, so I'm gonna add that $31 to the $88, that's $119 a month. And who's that going to? Okay, so I'm gonna pay myself. So at the end of another year, I pay back $1,400. So what am I gonna do? Oops, I'm wrong direction. I'm gonna take that $1,400, I'm gonna upgrade my wardrobe. But I'm gonna finance it for 2 years at 8%. Now here's the interesting thing. Keep on wrong direction here, okay. At the end of 4 years, I paid off all the loans. The first was 4 years, the second was 3, the next was 2. So I paid back 40. Just out of curiosity, how much was the first loan? But I paid back $42.24 for the furniture. I paid back $11.16 for the computer. I paid back $15.12 for the clothes. I still got the clothes. I still got the computer. I still got the furniture. But I collected all the money that got spent for it and the interest that would have went to somebody else. That's the equivalent. 68.52. That's a 90.3%. If I divide that by 4 years, that's over 22% a year. A lot of people are taking all kind of risk in hopes to get 10%. Now here's the question for you. With this example, was there risk involved? Was there taxes involved? Was there government regulation involved? Yeah. And because I just recovered all the money, didn't I just beat inflation? Could I do this again? And again? How long could I do this? And what's happening to my money supply while I'm doing this? I'm getting, yeah. This is something everybody can do. Anybody can and everybody should, in my opinion. But we just haven't been taught to do that. We've been taught to give up your money. And the best way to lose money is to give up control of it. So here's the point I'm getting at. This is already being done. The bank took your $3,600 and loaned it to this guy to get furniture. Was taking it back to the bank. They took that guy's money, yours, loaned it to the guy to get a computer. They're already doing this with your money. So if you're capable of using somebody else's money and being good to them, you're capable of using yours. You never be better to someone else's money than you're being to your own. We just haven't taught to do this. And then when you do this, then you're ready for the next level. And that's learning how to keep the money and do all this at the same time. Would you like to know how to do that? Well, I don't have time tonight, so you have to call me. Let's talk about that. So my point is this. These are all the elements that's been affecting what we're trying to do to get ahead. And so my suggestion, my thinking is this. Why not take an evaluation over what you want? Let's go back and revisit what you want, what you're doing, where you're at. You know, I have a lot of people suggest to me, I want to do this and I want to do that. Should I do this? I say, I don't know. Let's do the math and let's apply common sense. And then you'll know what to do. Okay? Because math and common sense need to come together. And if they don't, then it's really benefiting. So again, I can't say that we can go back and create a beginning, but you can't start today. Start in the beginning. Any questions?
How you get started?
How do you get started? Okay, well, what we do is we sit down and talk about what do you want to accomplish, what is it you're trying to accomplish. The next thing we're going to do is look at where you're at, that GPS, where you're at. Because that determines what you need to do to get where you want to go. And then if what you're doing is giving you what you want, then the first thing I'm going to do is congratulate you, because then now you need to know that the path you're on, you need to stay on that path. But if on the other hand you discover that what you're doing is not going to get you what you want, then only you need to decide, do I want to make some adjustments to make sure I get what I want when I want it, or just stay on the path that you're on. Okay? So that's a good question. The other question?
As an entrepreneur, how can you put this into play with the business?
Okay. It works, this comes into play whether it's a business or a job. See, here's the point. Everybody's getting income, period. Whether it's from a job, welfare, business, disability, retirement, everybody's getting income. I think you already know, it's not about how much you make, how much you keep, but what you do with what you keep that makes all the difference. So what you're getting as far as revenue is just a matter of you exercising discipline with the revenue. Okay, that's what it really comes down to. It's not the business, not the revenue, it's the understanding, having the wisdom what to do with what you get. And that's where we have a conversation about how to be more efficient with what you're doing. Any other questions? Let's hear a question. That's basically what I had. I'll just talk about it. Yes.
So, I'm going to say Brother Anthony. The illustration that we just saw, right, with the green bucket, right? So I'm understanding that I'm borrowing from myself. Is that what the point was as well, rather than taking out a loan to, buy those things?
It's a crazy good notion, isn't it? See, we're talking borrow from somebody else. But here's my point. Now, here's poverty thinking for you. It's my money. Why should I borrow from me? Yet we're going to borrow from somebody else, and we're going to pay them back, and we're paying them back with what? And besides, if you don't pay, they're going to sue you. Okay? So my point is, if you're capable of paying anybody for the use of their money, you are capable of paying you for the use of yours. This is how I live, this is what I preach and what I teach. And the thing is, I was in a hurry to pay off that car because I want to use this money again, and again, and again. See, before I understood this, I hated debt. But now I like that because I'm a lender. See, you're talking to me one or the other, the lender or borrower, but nobody told you could be both. And then and once you get used to that, there's strategies to know how to keep the money and still do all the borrowing and lending. Pretty cool. That's the next level. Question?
Hi. So what you're saying, if I heard you correctly, is that instead of paying the credit card company 12 to 30%, I can pay myself. I can borrow money from myself instead of borrowing from a credit card. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Because
pay
what
myself.
Pardon?
And pay myself.
Pay yourself.
That sounds pretty good.
See, the thing is, we're all getting money, but it goes out the front door, but none of it's coming back. So if you borrow from yourself, it's going out the front door and coming through the back door. There's money velocity. Because you're doing the same money over and over again. And that gets greater and greater. Yes.
So you're saying you would help to set up a plan, a vehicle of some kind, where I become a lender to whoever and charge them interest, right? And so I would get not only my money back, but I'd get that interest back as well. So that's a way of becoming a lender, and my money is working for me rather than I'm borrowing from somebody else and paying them.
Yeah. See, when I borrow for myself, I'm going to be really good to that lender. Okay? Because I don't use this money again. Now, when you start lending to other people, now, if somebody comes to me for a loan, I'm going to say, now, if you want me to be a lender, I'm going to have to treat you like a lender. You have to give me some collateral, give me something of value. Okay? Then it gets a messy game. And a good way to mess up relationships, lend money. Okay? Yes.
Well, Anthony, what I'm understanding here then is a lot of us probably have, some of us maybe, I'm still alive, the economy as it is now, have monies in the bank that are just sitting on, thinking that that money is going to increase. But that money is not going to do what you think it is because they want to use your money to lend it to somebody else. And when you need your money, they're going to charge you to use your money, even though you may have more than enough to get what you need, but they want to give you a loan, and you got money in the bank, and you got to sign papers, and you got to jump through hoops to get that money, and then you're going to be faithful to them to pay them back. When you can say, well, hey, I have this money. Let me just take it from myself and be honest with yourself. If they were going to charge you 18, 21%, 28 if they can, find a happy spot where you can pay yourself back. And you take your own money, and then you increase your own money. If you got to pay somebody, right? Pay it back to yourself. Start using your own money. I have a little bit of an advantage. I understand what he's saying because I've utilized it. I know it works. So it's just knowing and understanding how to get where you need to be. Once you try it and once you get the knowledge of it, tell you there's nothing like it in the world. I don't know nobody but me.
So my
I was
point,
cars and otherwise.
appreciate that. You know, the thing is, the reality is, while you might be interested in the economy, I believe you're more interested in your economy. Because your economy is when your economy is good, when everything else is going bad, you're getting richer. And because it comes down to what you do. And that's the whole point I'm trying to make. So I'm not saying all these things are bad. They all have a place. Yes, CDs, annuities, insurance, and investments, all things have a place. But why not create some certainty? Then that gives you permission slip to do everything else. That's what I'm suggesting. Okay. Any other questions?
Are you offering more classes, or
Pardon?
are you offering more classes to learn more about this? Or how's that process go? Do you speak to you personally, or?
I've done seminars, I've done classes, and I've spoken, I've worked with individuals as well. That's what I do now.
Okay.
And I might card with you, so I invite you for a set conversation. I promise you, like I did.
I'm a student. I'm already a student.
Yes, sir.
When you started with the $3,600, and I think some of us don't know how that process started, was that the 300 you were saying we were wasting? The times 12 for the year?
All I did was just take the money we're wasting and throw it in a plastic bucket so we can.
So you have to start. Or skip one half.
I think it's because when you look at the average person wastes about $10 a day.
Yes.
You don't know what you did with $10 a day. You don't know, it went away. So 10 times 30 is $100. So that's usually the dollar amount that people don't know what happened. So now you're conscious about what you're doing with that $10. That's the 300 times 12.
One thing I also want to say, how many of you ever heard the rule of 72? Have you ever heard that?
Yeah.
Okay. The rule of 72, there's financial people who will tell you that rule 72 works like this. Whatever interest rate you're getting, divide 72 by that and tells you when your money doubled. So if you're getting 6%, 72 divided by 6, that means your money doubles every 12 years. If you're getting 12%, 72 divided by 12, your money doubles every 6 years. Sounds good, doesn't it? Now, if you end up buying a product following the illustration, you might need a financial hostage negotiator. Because that formula works when the interest rate is never changing. So whatever product that you bought, was it a set rate that never ever changed? If not, see, again, math and common sense. Okay? So, and then you've heard, how many of you heard that compound interest is the greatest eighth wonder of the world. How many of you heard that one? And many people have credited Einstein for saying that's the greatest invention in the world. Well, I did some research and I found out that Einstein was not talking about money, he was talking about math. So all people talk about compound interest being the greatest invention. What I noticed, it was mostly financial people. But I did write down what Einstein did say. He says, when you have a reputation of being genius, you have to get used to being misquoted in all kinds of matters, even those that are far from your area of expertise.
Could you repeat that? Because it wasn't clear what you were saying, that last part, that he actually said.
What Einstein actually said, reputation for being genius, you need to get used to people misquoting you in all kinds of matters, even those which are far from your area of expertise, as it can possibly be. Interesting. So again, there's math and there's common sense. So sometimes we have to do the research to find out, you know. And I invite anybody to don't take my word for it, do the research. And if I'm wrong, I will gladly correct it. Fair enough? Yes, sir.
To get the bucket, what would you suggest be the type of bucket that we can use in order to borrow from ourselves? Because we have to put the money into something in order to get it back out. But both of us don't. We just get the money and then we disperse it. So we don't have nothing to put it in to even borrow from ourselves. What would you suggest would be that I need to put in so that we can start borrowing from ourselves and use that money to make it accumulate more?
Use what you're already using. What are you putting money in and taking money out? You know, now, my great-grandparents, they used mattresses.
Discipline and consistency.
Discipline and consistency. Now, I have people say to me, well, Anthony, I don't have that kind of discipline. And here's what I tell them. Yes, you do. You are 100% disciplined to your current set of habits.
Establishing the bucket might be the hardest thing to get going, because what you have to do is look at that as don't touch money. Most of us, we get to a certain point, and it's like, shoot, I'm gonna spend this, it's mine, whatever. But why just go in and spend it when you can borrow it from yourself and grow it without risk? Put it back in there. Just be true to yourself. You would have, if you borrowed from somebody else, you would have paid them back. Pay yourself back with some interest, and don't touch don't touch it for anything other than your loans, and to pay back, and you'll see it'll grow exponentially, and you'll wonder like, how do I have so much with so little? But be true to yourself. Get your bucket away. Start. Just start, and once you start, it doesn't exist except for the input and the use of loans.
All right. Folks, I don't want to make it confusing. I just, the main point I want to make here is when you change how you see things,
Yes.
you begin to change what you see. And when you change what you see, you begin to change what you think. And when you change what you think, you change what you do. And you'll change what you have. That's the main point, is to see what we don't see, so we can change how we think. That was the main premise behind some of these things that we may not have been aware of. Because how can you fix what you're not aware of? Does that make sense?
Yes.
So all we're talking about really is just working on becoming more efficient with what we already have. When you do that, the rest is history. So I want to thank you all for coming. I'm going to stick around, so that's another question. So I want to thank you